Don't you ever get tired of the same routine? Being the average Joe? Not doing anything with your life? Well, let me explain. My name is Anthony, and I work as a lawyer. This was one of the worst decisions of my life. I mean, I make good money, but it's just not worth it. It's the same thing over and over, and it gets way too monotonous. This job is obnoxious because every day it feels like the same people making the same mistakes. And I just feel like there's something more to life, something to look forward to. Then one day I tried to change up my daily routine and went out for some coffee. One of my good friends from the office met me there and we sat down and talked for a bit. Then I explained to him that my life is getting too perpetual and boring. And he went on and told me about the deep web and all the breathtaking and thrilling things that happens on the deep web. I was immediately intrigued and went home and researched all about it, and even figured out how to get on it. I told myself I wouldn't get on the deep web due to the stories that I'd heard. But one afternoon, when I'd finally decided to go out and buy a new laptop so I could access the deep web, and so what all the discussion was about. First, I downloaded a web browser called Tor. Then I downloaded a few VPNs like IPVanish, VPN, and ExpressVPN. Then I started roaming the deep web, clicking link after link. It didn't take me long to realize that the deep web was no joke, and that I needed to keep myself protected. But soon I realized that the deep web didn't bring me the excitement and thrill I was hoping for in the beginning, until one day I decided to get back on the deep web and came across a page that said Hitman for Hire. I thought, wow, really? This has to be a fake. Then later, just got off the deep web and went and took a shower. But I couldn't get that Hitman for Hire site out of my mind. But I just thought I might check it out in the morning. The next day I woke up and all I could think about was the Hitman for Hire site. And then I just proceeded to go to work and told myself I would check it out when I got home. Later that day, when I got home, it was around 4 or so, and I immediately turned on my laptop and found the Hitman for Hire site again. I had to know if this was real, so I began to make a plan that could possibly end my life. The very next day, I went and took a large amount of money out of my bank and converted it to deep web currency, which is Bitcoin. Second, I went back to the site and paid 14 Bitcoins for the Hitman to kill someone. Then I went to a site that I found that sold military-grade weapons, including a Colt AR-15 carbine and other highly illegal weapons. So I began to prepare for war. I bought spyware, guns, and even a drone to help watch the area. Within the hour, the hitman messaged me back saying, "Who, where, and what do you want me to kill?" I proceeded to enter my name and my address and an old photo. And then he replied with, "Okay, I will start in 2 days." This was enough time for me to receive what I've ordered on the deep web and prepare for war. The next night, I traded in my car for an older 1972 Pontiac, then parked about 100 yards away from my house and sat there watching and waiting. Nothing happened till about 3 or 4 in the morning, but all he did was look at the house and drive away. I'm guessing he was looking the place over, but then the next day I went and got some cash out of my bank, and soon after he showed up looking around. So now I know he's tracking my cards and my bank info. So I thought this would be the time to have some fun. I went to store after store and bought one item with my card because I knew he would be there shortly after I left. Then I had to go and check into a hotel with cash so he didn't track me. I stayed there for the night, and then in the morning I had a great idea. I was going to use my card for a hotel down the street so I could get a good look at him and maybe even see his license plate. So that afternoon I went down the street and paid for a room with my card and then went back to my car and drove about 100 yards out and sat there waiting for him to show up. He soon arrived and stepped out of his car and walked in the hotel. So I made a mad dash for his car and put a tracking device on the back left wheel so I could track his every movement. This didn't last long because I guess he had a device scanner for his car so he couldn't be tracked. The next day I went to one of my old friends and asked him to track this license plate that at first he said no, but I slipped him a few 20s and he said I'll be right back. He came back to the desk and handed me a folder, so I thanked him and was on my way. When I got back home I was delighted to finally have some information about the guy. I found out where he stays and his name. I'm not going to say his name due to personal reasons, but let's just say his name is Rob. So later that day, I decided to go get something to eat. I went to a local Burger King and just bought a burger, but I forgot. I used my card to buy my food. And as soon as I came to my senses, I looked out the window and there he was. being out of his car with a gun in hand. So I took off and ran out the other door and got to my car and grabbed my pistol. He knew it was me and started shooting at me, hitting my car 4 or 5 times. This let me know he wasn't afraid to shoot in public. Then I jumped in my car and floored it all the way back to the hotel I was staying in. So now, all that I can think about is getting revenge. So the next day, I began to plan. My plan was to go and take some money out of my bank and dive up on the hill that was next to the bank and sit there with my new Barrett 50 cal that I got off the deep web. So that's exactly what I did. But this time was weird because it took him longer to get there. So when I seen him got on my scope and watched him for a few minutes, and all he did was walk around and talk to someone on the phone. So I decided to take a shot because I wasn't going to get this good of a chance again. I aimed and shot, and at first I thought I missed. But when I aimed back down my scope, he was lying on the ground bleeding. So I got back in my car and drove back down to the ATM near the bank and picked him up and put him in the back seat. I didn't know what to say to him, so I just floored it away from the bank. We ended up driving for a few minutes till I decided to stop and talk. I said, "Hey, good try." And he replied with mumbling and sighs of pain. So I decided to make him suffer anymore, and I started to pour gas all over the car and lit a lighter. "Any last words?" And he replied with, "Please let me have one last drink before I go." I said sure, and I got the bottle of Grey Goose out of my trunk and then let him drink for a few minutes, then said goodbye and threw the lighter on the car. It exploded in flames. As I walked away, I heard a huge explosion. So guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you did, and don't forget to sub to Trexx in the description. Until next time, bye guys.